Today, we're looking at a turquoise ink by Herbin Diablo Menthe. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. There's timestamps down below so that you can skip around, but if you got the time, I would appreciate you if you check out the entire video. You can follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would remind you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Duke 209 with a Fude nib. I used it to write for a day and to take the notes for this video. I always standardize some of my writing samples by using Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, although I do use more papers, and some of those will be seen later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Now, looking at the camera, it looks like it might be having a little bit of issue with this color. We're going to see. Let's look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading that's going on. Yes, it is a light tone. It's easier to read in person. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading again, 8 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, less shading, but it is a little more pronounced, the shading, because it's coming out so light, 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show color variation, and we do get it. And Tomoe River. No bleeding, no Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Medium is lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 18 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both are giving us no color variation, and we get none in the writing. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is just a hair lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some decent shading throughout. There's spots of it. It's not tremendous, but there's definitely spots when you look at the word fox or you look at the word over. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is just a hair lighter than the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen, better shading than we got with the extra fine as a result of it going down lighter. 13 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show good color variation left to right, and we do get it in the writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that this ink runs away from the water. It's a very light turquoise color that is just that. It's not a blend to get it. The one on the right that I let dry for 10 minutes, if I hadn't marked that filter, I wouldn't have been able to tell which is which means I'm expecting no resistance from this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it's a very pale color. Now, it's perfectly readable, it survives perfectly fine, it's just the fact that it's so pale, but it would survive if you wanted to use it in a note-taking situation. Water is completely reactivating it, obliterating it off the page. You need nothing but water to get this out of the pen. Pen flush does exactly what water does, and the 1/3 bleach solution, no surprise, exactly the same as water, probably causing a little bit of damage to the paper though. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Herbin Diablo Menthe has a viscosity of 1.3, making this a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all 6 of those numbers. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Herbin's Diablo Menthe has an average dry time of 12 seconds, which makes it a fast-drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Herbin's Diablo Menthe, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for red and chose Noodler's Park Red. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, P. Berger, and white lines paper. Here we're looking at the yellow Rhodia paper to see what kind of tone difference we might go through for having a yellow backdrop. And what we get is this blue-leaning turquoise becomes a very green ink. It's a nice green here that, like the blue being a little too light, the green is also just a bit too light, but it does make a dramatic change in the color of this ink, meaning it's quite translucent. P. Berger. It's a French rules student grade paper. It does have some bleeding. It does have some show through that's going on with the stub and with the extra fine. Strangely, not with the medium. Doesn't touch the page underneath. The 1.1 had no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine looks ridiculously difficult to read on camera. It's so light. Has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It actually does have a couple spots of shading like the X in Fox, the K and the Q in Quick, so it's there. 3 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we only got spots of it with the medium. And last up is white lines paper. Now, the stub and spots on the extra fine still had a couple bleeding spots, but nowhere near through the page, and it wouldn't stop you from using the back of the page. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter, just a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does offer spots of shading. Look at what's going on in the word quick, in the word brown, in the word fox. A lot of very nice shading here. It's just so light, and 2 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby, far left to far right, does show the tiniest bit of color variation. The extra fine shows none. That's about what we got in the writing, and that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Herbin's Diablo Menthe? There is some tone variation that you're going to get from different nibs. Largely, I find the tone to be too light for me to comfortably use over the course of a page. Reading it back, a day or two later is a little bit of an effort, so it's too light for me. So what nib and pen is going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A dry pen, certainly too light a tone. You need to use a very wet medium or fine pen to put enough ink down to be able to comfortably read this. And even then, there's no guarantees a few days later that it's not too light for you to comfortably read, but that might be some of the best you're going to get. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.